guys, it's V, and welcome to my labor and delivery story. I know I promised my 38-week pregnancy vlog as well as a what's in my hospital bag vlog, but I didn't make it that far. I went into labor naturally at 38 weeks and I had my baby. So I'm going to tell you guys about that story because I think it was pretty interesting and it was nothing like what I expected labor to be like. But before I get into all of that, I know you want to meet the star of the story. So without further ado, I introduce to you Miss Athena Jade. Hello. Say hello, you two. Say hello. No, you sleeping? She's going to be sleeping the whole video probably. On to the story. It started on December 27th. What's wrong? What's wrong? Am I talking too loud? She smiles so much already. I know they're not real smiles, but I love them anyway. Okay, so it started on December 27th, which was Wednesday. I had my weekly appointment. So I saw a midwife. I usually see my OB, but the midwife was the one that was available. Super cool lady, I like her. And she decided to give me a cervical check to see how far along I was because I was already dilated from pre-labor, the preterm labor. And at 36 weeks, I was 2 centimeters. So she checked me. She said, "Oh, wow, homegirl, you are 4 centimeters dilated. You need to go home, pack your bags, get to walking because the baby's coming before the weekend." And that was like really exciting to hear. That I'm walking around 4 centimeters, almost 5 centimeters dilated, and I'm not in active labor. Definitely not what I was expecting, but hey, you know, it's progress. And she said once I actually do go into labor, it was probably going to go really, really quickly. So, my bags were already packed in the car waiting. So I decided I wanted to cook one last meal before the baby came. And we stopped by KFC and we got a bucket because I didn't feel like frying chicken and I love KFC. And I made, you know, baked mac and cheese and green bean casserole and I made caramel turtle brownies. And so with all that cooking, I'm walking back and forth and, you know, squatting, opening the oven, just a lot of movement, and the contractions were happening, not that painful, and definitely not timeable, but things were happening. And that night, decided to engage in some natural inducing methods. You know, there's a lot of things they say that help start labor, and sex is one of them. And I personally already know that it works for me because that's what put me into preterm labor. And it almost put me into preterm labor again. And my doctor put me on pelvic rest after the second time. She's like, no more boom boom until 37 weeks at least. So I think I kind of knew that if we did, I was going to go into labor. So we did, and 1 a.m. the contractions started happening, and they weren't actually that bad compared to previous times of consistent contractions. They weren't that bad, but the problem was that they weren't progressing. They weren't getting close together, and they weren't getting strong, but it was enough to keep me awake. So I labored around, walked, squatted, tried to do all these kind of things to kind of make them come closer together, and it just wasn't happening. So around 3 o'clock, I decided to wake up Kip and say, "Hey, let's go to the hospital." Not because I thought that I was in labor, but I couldn't sleep. And so I was hoping that, you know, I progressed even a little bit to 5 centimeters so that they would keep me and, you know, give me things to make the labor progress. So we wake up, I wake him up, we go to the hospital around 3:30, we get there, and I waddled my way over to triage, stopping for contractions. And I'm so glad I pre-registered because it would suck to be in full labor trying to do paperwork in triage. They get me into a room, and it's about 4 o'clock when one of the midwives come down, and she says, "Okay, I'm going to check you." And I am 6 centimeters dilated, active labor. And I'm just like, what? Because if you look at me, I clearly don't look like I'm in labor. The contractions at this point hurt no worse than period cramps for me. And I know that I have some pretty intense periods, so maybe this is, just kind of a unique situation and it's not how everybody else experiences it. So I'm just sitting there like in denial, like I'm not in labor. So typically they would send me up to labor and delivery now, but all the babies decided they wanted to be born that night and there were no rooms. So I had to labor in triage. They give me the IV. They say, "Hey, do you want an epidural?" I'm just like, no, I'm good. And so I just sit there and I text my mom the whole time because she is a night owl and she was up. So I'm just sitting there. It's kind of boring. I really intended on filming my labor, but it was so boring. I was just sitting there the whole time. And it just wouldn't have been interesting to... I just decided to not. It was boring. Let's see. The timestamps I can't remember right now, but they were coming in and out, the nurses and the midwives, sometimes to check me, sometimes to just look at me, because they're like, "Are you sure you're in labor? Why are you just sitting there all chill and everything?" I guess they were expecting, moaning and groaning and clearly being in pain, but I wasn't in that much pain. The contractions weren't that close together, saying maybe 4 or 5 minutes apart, and scale of 1 to 10, like 5 to 6 on the pain level. Really just felt like period cramps to me. And so everyone was just kind of looking at me like, "Wow, you're a rock star. You're Wonder Woman." I didn't really feel that way, but hey, I'll take the encouragement. And, a couple of hours go by, and eventually I'm 7 centimeters, 8 centimeters, and it really came kind of quickly. There was no stalling out or anything, and so, hair. I want to say it was almost 10 o'clock when they're like, "Okay, you're 8 centimeters, and there's a room available. Let's go." Send me up to labor and delivery, and I really wanted, when I was planning on, how I would get through labor naturally or without pain medication, I really wanted to use the tubs because they have really nice tubs. But I didn't need it. For one, the pain wasn't bad enough for me to sit in a tub, and for two, by the time I got to labor and delivery, I was already 8 centimeters. And by the time, you got the water running and filled up the tub, I probably would have been 10 and ready to push. So there was really not a whole lot I could do but wait. Kip and I decided to go walk around the floor. We did a couple of laps around the floor, and I just was like, nah, this isn't doing it for me. So I went back to my room, and the midwives came in and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna break your water now and things are gonna go really fast." This was 10 o'clock when they broke my water, and things went really fast after that. Oh goodness, my pain almost instantly went from a 5 to 9, 10 levels. And I found that laying in the bed was the worst pain, so I decided to get up and just kind of sway and rock and lean on the bed with these towels tucked up between my legs because my water is still leaking constantly. And I turned into an animal. Like it was primal and animalistic, and I'm growling. And my door's open, so I feel bad for the nurses and anybody standing outside. I was not expecting it to ramp up that fast. And the nurse is trying to tell Kip what to tell me. Like, oh, give her encouragement, tell her to relax her leg, her body, whatever. And I'm just like, no, stop, shush. No. I'm not a person that can handle or that needs people's encouragement when I'm in pain. My best way to deal with pain is to focus and go within myself. So he's talking to me and I'm just like, shh. I really didn't want to be mean because he was only trying to help. So I just needed him to hold my hand and just be there. just quietly be there. And I really went within myself and was very focused. And around 9 centimeters is when I started to involuntarily push. And it was the strangest, weirdest sensation I have ever felt in my life. And I never want to feel it again. Because it was like, when you throw up and there's nothing left in your stomach, but your body is still retching. That's exactly what it felt like. Like, I couldn't stop. And so I got in the bed and I'm just involuntarily pushing and screaming. And they check me again and they say there's a cervical lip. So we have to wait for the lip to push aside before I can start pushing. And so I'm just like, But during this entire thing, it's the most pain I've ever experienced. But at no point did I ever think that I couldn't do it. There was no point that I ever want that epidural or wish that I had gotten an epidural. It was just, it was weird. I guess it was me turning, to my natural instincts, really. And the adrenaline pumping through my body and everything. So I want to say around 11 o'clock, 11:10, 11:15, probably. I didn't push for that long. So let's say 11:15, the doctor comes in and he's like, okay, hey, are you ready to push? You look like you're ready to push. I'm like, yes, I'm ready to push, please. And they get me into the traditional pushing position. That was also on my birth plan, was that I wanted to push in other positions besides the one where you're on your back and everything. But really, when you go into labor, that birth plan, right out the window, because you can't plan for anything. And I just wanted her out. I didn't care what position I was in. They get me on my back and they're like, oh, hey, look, hair. And I had, okay, well, she's right there. You're not going to have to push that much. And I didn't. So maybe 15 minutes of pushing, she shot out. She was ready to be here. You were just ready. Barely gave the doctor a chance, time to catch her. Oh, and that ring of fire. That was the most intense pain I've ever felt in my life. But at the same time, I still never felt like, oh, I can't do this. I just felt like, hey, it's time to buckle down and get this baby out. Very focused. I did lose steam though, because it's hard. You're pushing like it's the biggest poop of your life. So I did have to take a couple contractions of just not pushing because I had no more energy. And she still came out really fast. And when the baby comes out, they put her on your chest, and in the movies they're always crying and they're like, oh, happy birthday, baby. But for me, I was just kind of like, and what is this? A baby? Oh, why is she messy? I thought you were gonna clean her up. There was no emotion immediately. I was just so overwhelmed, and so I just laid there. And then I realized that I got a tear, and so he was like, "You have a 2nd-degree tear. I'm gonna stitch that up for you." And so that's what I was focusing on, because that really hurt. When the placenta came out and they started pushing on your stomach, that really hurt too. And so I really, there was no happy emotion immediately afterwards. But after everything calmed down and they gave me the hour of skin to skin with her, that's when all the love and emotions came in and the happy. It's like, wow, I did that. I made this and I pushed it out without pain medication. I'm awesome. All moms are awesome no matter how you give birth, but I just felt really awesome in that moment. And we just laid there for the hour and it was great. And then Daddy got to hold you and that was great too. So it was absolutely nothing like what I expected labor to be like. They're always saying, you know, you're the first time mom, things are gonna go slowly. You're gonna take a while to get to 10 centimeters. And most first time moms push for an average of 90 minutes. I wasn't expecting to push for only 15 minutes. So nothing I planned for went the way that I wanted it to. But it actually ended up being better than what I expected because one, I wasn't in any pain to begin with until, I wasn't really in pain until they broke my water. So that's nice, you know, I was expecting to be in a lot of pain for many, many hours. And two, it just went so fast. I was expecting it to be slow. And I don't plan on doing this again. But if I did, I would want it to go like the way that it did. So this little lady was born at 11:38 on December 28th, and she was 6 pounds 7 ounces. Very small. I was expecting, you know, the big juicy baby that she was at 20 weeks. I wasn't expecting this itty bitty baby. And the clothes we brought her were too big. I had this really adorable going home outfit for her, and it was too big. That's okay. This is actually too big for her too. Most of the clothes that we have are 0 to 3, so she's gonna be kind of swimming in her clothes for a little bit. And she had a kind of a rough start. I mean, she came out kicking and screaming and all of that, strong lungs, and but she had low blood sugar and she was jittery, so we had to do blood draws and try to get as much milk into her, so we had to use formula. And then she ended up having jaundice because we have different blood types. And it took a long time for the jaundice to go away, actually. She only recently, the last couple of days, have been able to get off the Billy blanket that we had to go home with. You know, the light therapy that she had to be on. Which was, I hated it. Because she was strapped to this board 24 hours a day except for feeding. And I couldn't cuddle her as much as I wanted to. And now I get all the baby snuggles that I want. Me being a mom I'm still in denial. Like, I'm holding this baby and I'm just like, this isn't my baby. It doesn't feel real. I never really expected myself to be a parent, especially not right now. So it's just like, I love kids and I'm really good with kids, but wow, it's weird. But it's the most amazing thing. Like, I love this little girl so much and I've only known her for so long. And very happy. And she's such a good baby. This is what she does like 95% of the day. If you can catch her cues before she starts crying, she doesn't cry. You catch her feeding cues, she's ready to eat, you can tell, she won't cry. The only time that she cries is if we have to put clothes on her or we have to change her diaper. She likes to be naked, apparently. My little nudist. But she doesn't cry. She's not fussy. She sleeps really well. So, thank you for being such an easygoing baby. And I know it's probably going to change, but I'm enjoying it for right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please, I'm not talking to you guys like that. If you guys enjoyed this video. No, if you guys enjoyed the video though, be sure to give it a thumbs up for me. I really appreciate it. Feel free to leave some comments and subscribe if you aren't already subscribed. I can't tell you what kind of content I'll be producing this year, but if you enjoy my content, be sure to be subscribed for whatever it is that I put out for you. And I will see you guys next time. Bye. 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 Peace.